you get to hear from what I truly believe is one of the best principals and educators that I've ever had the privilege of hearing from, seeing, and her. I'm going to sit tall. And y'all know me, I'm a country girl, so she wears boots today, and I'm loving it. But you will get to see that personality is Cherie Cagle. And I had the privilege of getting to know her when I first came to United Way, because we had done an RFP for education. One of our goals and our initiatives at United Way in the field of education is to improve third grade reading scores, so that those kids who are going through our system who may not have the same opportunities that those who are at the right level have, still have the same access to resources, still have the same access to enthusiasm, which Dr. Cagle definitely has, and have those resources to take them all the way through their school education. Well, when we put out the RFP, we had, I think, 3 that made it to the finalist rounds for how they were going to improve third grade education. It was incredibly evident that Cherie and her team had the right plan, had the resources, had the knowledge, and certainly had the passion to make that impact with the kids. And what you'll know about her by the end of her presentation is that she does it with her whole heart. You've probably heard about some of the changes that she caused at Hallmark Elementary. Global Learning Academy is her vision. It would not be here without her. That academy serves kids in our community who are at a crossroads or in danger of falling into poverty for their next cycle. And she doesn't just have one schoolwork, she literally has 3 schoolwork of kids in that academy. But every child there has that same opportunity, because the standard that she holds her volunteers and her educators to is something that they need to replicate across the entire system. In fact, I think that what's happening in our elementary school system is in large part because of Cherie's efforts, because of what she did with the Next Right Thing. I believe that that is why they have the additional time in our elementary schools for reading. So we partnered with Cherie and her team at Global Learning to do the Next Right Thing, so that they could have an additional 2 hours of instruction with kids who were in danger of falling through the cracks and weren't achieving at the level that they needed to, and needed a little additional time for tutoring, one-on-one reading skills. That truly is now in place in many of our other elementary schools. And so we no longer fund the Next Right Thing, because the school district saw that they had the productive model that will continue to work. This is what she gave me for her introduction, like 5 bullet points. But you will find in your packet her resume, which, again, I've told y'all again and again, those who get the privilege of seeing are the ones who are doing the most good with the least amount of time when they're involved in so many different things. You will see all the awards that Dr. Cagle has won. She's congressional recognition for her service to our community, for what she does to these kids. But more importantly, I think she inspires those children to have a better life. And she does that by inspiring passion with her teachers and her volunteers. So you're going to get to hear from her first, and then you'll get to hear from Kristen Fairchild, who many of you may have heard of Pensacola Promise, that is now Chain Reaction. That program and the teams in our community who are providing service with many of your organizations would not be here without Kristen. That was her vision. She was the founder of that organization, much like Lee with Global Learning, Global Corner, because I got Global Academy and Global Corner. But truly, again, this is the panel of passion that we have up here, and it's all dealing with youth, which will take our place in the next generation. You have Kristen's resume. The picture in there is worth 1,000 words, because she told me as she was coming up, "Asked me if I dance, are you?" And I'm like, "You always dance. I wasn't expecting less." But it's the same thing. It's inspiring passion with others. I truly believe in it, living it every day, and dedicating their life to that. I can't imagine a program. I taught high school for years. I can't imagine dealing with 1,000 teens on a regular basis that are volunteering. So she does a really good job with that. She's worked with leadership at Scola, Youth League, has sent many of her kids to Rotary Youth Leadership Awards and does a great job inspiring there as well. And then if you didn't have enough of those two, then you have Chrissy Smith, who is working with Big Brothers Big Sisters. Again, the passion part is what makes them so successful. She's not just the vice president that's working with the volunteers at Big Brothers Big Sisters. She is a and has been with 4 different young women. So all of these individuals that you get to hear from have great ideas and information on volunteering and volunteer programs that are successful. But more importantly, I think all 3 of them are living it every day in all of their hearts. So with that, I'm going to shut up and turn it over to Sheree.
I just don't know what to say about that introduction.
Awesome. Well, I am the principal of Global Learning Academy. If you don't know a lot about Global Learning Academy, it is 3 inner-city schools that were closed and put under one roof. They closed Hallmark Elementary School, Alley Elementary School, and Spencer Biz Elementary School, and put all of them under one roof. And I used to be this beautiful, tall model. It's not really so good anymore. But we have survived opening our building. This is our 3rd year in the brand new facility. And but we still deal with the old issues that we had at Hallmark and at UNESCO. I was the principal of both of those schools while we were building the new school. Just to kind of give you an example of what I kind of live with every day. The first day of school is always hectic. You know, there's people are lost, kids don't know where their class is, teachers are crying. It's always one of these. It's a day that you try to just get through, get the kids there, get fed, get them home. Well, about 9 o'clock, the first day of school, I had a teacher, the kindergarten teacher, please come down and talk for with this student. So I went down to this student all over the room, over, under, around, down, and I'm chasing them in my booth, because this year we're going to lasso the F cat. Hence the booth. Finally, you know, we're working on catching him, get him. Well, another student in the class helped us catch him. He said, "Oh, this is my brother." I said, "How old is your brother?" He said, "He's 3 years old." I said, "Why is your brother here?" He said, "My mama left him." So when mama walks big brother, kindergarten, to class, left the 3-year-old there too. The teacher doesn't know this person is supposed to be in her room. She realized he's smaller than everybody else. I have to call mom and say, "Are you missing anything?" "No." "Well, we have your 3-year-old at school." "Well, he was having such a good time, I needed to take him." "Okay, now we're ready for you to come and take him. You can come back and get him. That would be a big help to us." That's kind of what I do. Best practices, you've already heard it today. We have to have something meaningful for our volunteers to do. That means sometimes you have to explain why you're asking them to do something. The best example I can give you of that, this recent example, is a volunteer came, wanted to do something, and so we gave her card passes to cut out. When I went by, she was like on number 156, cutting them out, and I could tell that she did not realize how meaningful her work was. So I just said, "Oh, thank you so much for passing those out. Let me tell you what we do with those. The very first day of school, when parents come, they're going to be car riders, we hang those in their car, we get a number. That way, at the end of the day, we know all of these kids go to car number 5. All of these kids go to car number 3. Once you realize what she was doing and how that would work in the big picture, she cut out 250. So you got to give them meaningful work, and we have to explain to them how they're doing what they're doing. You have to find the perfect match between what you need and what they want to do. Now, I have 800 students in my school. It's my goal to have 800 mentors. I have about 186 right now. I need a mentor for every child. But everybody's not meant to be a mentor. That's not what everybody wants to do. I have a gentleman in my building that he wanted to volunteer for me to speak at a church, and he was going to give 1 hour a week that he did not want anything to do with children, and he did not want to do any office work, and he did not want to go outside and sweat, and he did not, okay. What are we going to do? Well, we put him in the media center. It was our first year. We had lots of books to unpack. Certainly you can take books out of the shelf. You don't even have to matter where you just take them out of the box from on the shelf. Don't care where you put them, just get them out of the box from on the shelf. And so this 1 hour volunteer, 1 hour a week, now works 25 hours a week at our school. And he works in the media center, and the kids think he's the librarian. Works out great. Carl Warneke, a lot of you know Carl Warneke from Pensacola News Journal. He mentored for years at Hallmark before I became principal. The year that I came, his student that he had mentored for 2 years left. Completely left Pensacola, so he couldn't follow his student. So he wanted another student. I knew I liked Carl right from the beginning. And I knew I liked Carl for a long time. So I told Carl we picked just the perfect kid for him. I got the meanest and the baddest and the fastest kindergartner I could find. Now Carl made it very clear he liked the older children. Carl, I need you to take this kindergartner. He needs a role model. Please, please, please. Carl said, what do I do with it? Those are his exact words. What do I do with it? Carl Warneke is still with that student who is now starting high school, and he has been with that student every single year. I lost Carl Warneke, but I did have him in kindergarten through 5th grade and tried to recruit him, but it was the right thing to do. He needed to go with that child, so he's still with us. But find the right match. Create an environment that welcomes volunteers. Volunteers at my school, they have a place to put their things. They have a special sign-in procedure that they have. But I think what they like the most is they're called by name, they're welcome. If they see me in the hall, you gonna get a hug. I mean, I'm just as country as they come, but I'm gonna come, oh, I'm so glad to see you. And they expect that, and that's what we're gonna do. It's very welcoming. I also get lots of comments from volunteers and mentors. They say, everybody at this school speaks to me. Everybody says hello. It's not just my teacher. It's not just you. The custodians, it's everybody. It's because that's my expectation. And we talked about that at the beginning of the year. If you're not comfortable with people in your room, you don't need to be a local, because we're going to have lots of people in your room, and you're going to smile, and you're going to like it. It's going to be great. So we just kind of created that atmosphere. Of course, we recognize our volunteers annually and all throughout the year. And we'll talk about recognition a little bit later, but that's not anything that has to cost a lot of money. If you work around children, you can just put on a play and act like the mentors and volunteers in that play. You give them a gift that will last a lifetime. They love it. And of course, we have an open door policy for our volunteers. They can get to us any time. And it's real important they can get to that person at the very top. They get that person at the very top, they feel like they've been heard and that they are important. And they are important. At my school, we have volunteers and we have mentors. Our volunteers are people that they want to work in a classroom, they want to work in the media center. Some of them want to come once a week, some want to come once a year. It just varies. Our mentors, though, make a commitment to work with the same child every week at the same time for 1 hour. And that's what we have 186 people doing that right now. A big thank you to Ashley, because Ashley does a lot of recruitment for me. She is phenomenal. That's what I do best. I know people who know people. And I keep telling my story over and over and over, and I get lots of help like that. We do our own background checks on volunteers. It's just a form they have to fill out, and really all we have to do is look them up online to see if they're a sexual predator. That's what our district does for volunteers. If you're going to mentor, though, that means you are allowed to take a student out of the classroom, so it's more of an in-depth check, and they're fingerprinted, and it's $80, but the district picks up that cost. When I did this slide, I didn't have any money, but I'm good at finding money too. I do have a person that I hire for like 3 hours a week that helps me with the recruitment and retention of our mentors and getting them assigned to students, doing that kind of paperwork. So I didn't have the money when I did that, but I do have that cost now. Recruitment and retention. I think the most important thing you can do to recruit somebody is to tell your story. Tell your story. When I go and I speak and I talk about, we send 250 backpacks home every Friday with students. Because if we don't, 250 families don't have breakfast, lunch, or dinner for the whole weekend. Last year, I had 287 children homeless at some point. That meant they were living in a car, they were living under a bridge, they were in a shelter, they were moving from family to family. But I had 287 cases that I knew about, many, many more that I don't know any about. I talk about being a struggling school. We are a D school for the second year in a row. For the third year in a row, it's not going to be pretty, so we have this real sense of urgency. And I talk to my audiences about the academic struggles and how far behind our children come. And I always tell the story about the student that was in kindergarten who we thought possibly had a hearing problem, because when the teacher would give directions, sometimes the student would come, sometimes the student would not come, didn't know if he was stubborn, didn't know if he could hear, but we knew there was definitely a problem with the student. Got mom to come in, said come in and sit with us, because she insisted he did not have a problem. So come in and observe with me. Let's just sit in the back of the classroom and let's watch what's happening. And we watched a little boy, and he interacted. Sometimes he followed directions, and sometimes he didn't follow directions. Everything that we had said that we'd been seeing. Then it was time for the class to go to lunch. He was over in the center with his back to the teacher. And the teacher said, everybody, you need to line up. And everybody lines up except her child. And she said, Tadarius, you need to line up. Tadarius does not even turn around. Tadarius, you need to, I said, see, he's got a hearing problem. See, he does not even hear us calling his name. She said, pork chop. The child thought his name was pork chop. He had never heard his name was Tadarius. So every time we called Tadarius, well, that must be somebody else in the class. Honest to goodness, that's a true story. And it's kind of funny and we giggle about it, because that's how far behind our children come. So when you go and speak to organizations and groups about volunteering for you, tell your story. Let them know specific stories. Talk about the facts. Talk about the data. It's so important for them to hear. Have specific needs ready to share. If you come to the administration suite at Global Learning Academy, there's a sheet of paper that has all my partners in education and what each of them do for me. And then there's a big old long list. Ashley, you need to come see.
No, I saw it yesterday.
Okay. It goes all the way down to the ground. That talks about what we need. Because as people come down there, they're going to see that. I need everyone to be ready to say what they need. I have 99 employees at my school. I'm hoping that 99 of them go to church. Probably need to after spending some time with me. But I'm hoping that they go to 99 different churches. And I hope when they go to church, they know what that list says that we need. What do we need volunteers to do? What kind of things do we need donated? That's right there in my face all the time. So have in mind, what do you need? What would you want them to do? If 50 showed up, what would you do with them? Oh, I wish 50 good looking men would come to my school. I could have put it for them. Ask current volunteers if they have friends. Be careful how you say that, because you don't want to say, do you have any friends? Sorry for that. Everyone say, do you have any friends that can come with you? Because it is so much more fun when you work with a friend. Just like working out, you're more likely to keep on that exercise program if you have somebody that you can do it with. You're more likely to come and volunteer if you have somebody that you can do it with. And that's why mentoring is so successful, because they're connected to another person. They're connected to a student. It's a lot easier for me to keep mentors than it is to keep volunteers. So, because the volunteers aren't connected to that same person all the time. So, ask if they have a friend that would like to come with them. Host informational meetings. Tell them, I'll come to your church, I'll come to your school, I'll come to your meeting. I go to Rotary meetings, I go to Kiwanis meetings. I talk to people in Walmart that I don't know. My daughter goes to dance, so every time we have a dance moms meeting, I might be like, by the way, Every place I go, I'm talking about it. But you know, it's real important too that I give back to people who give to me. Rotary does a lot for my school. They buy every single pre-K student a bicycle at Christmas time, and they cook for report card night, every single report card night. So I need to make sure I get back to Rotary. So last Saturday they had a bowling tournament, and I hurt my wrist, and I was there. I was at the bowling tournament. My teachers were there. We participated in the bowling tournament. We did awful. We were the first ones that we were there. We were giving back. So when you have volunteers and groups that give to you, make sure you find a way to give back to them. Gulf Power is one of our partners in education. They send mentors. Every Christmas, we send a group of kids over to Gulf Power to sing. Just remember that giving back that you do. And then let your volunteers know that they are appreciated. And you know, one of the best ways that I think I can do that, we let ours know that we do the award ceremony at the end, we take their pictures, we give certificates, all that stuff. That I think the most powerful thing that we do is when the teacher or myself write a handwritten note to that volunteer and mail it to their house. There is something about getting something in the mail. You're not just handing it to them. You're not just putting it in your box. I do that with my teachers all the time. It would be very easy to shoot them an email, let them know how much I appreciate them. It'd be real easy to jot them a note, put it in their box. It's right there. But I jot that note, take the time to mail it, and I promise you, if you walk through my school, every single teacher that gets one at home somehow brings it back to work and posts it so everybody can see. And our mentors and volunteers do the same thing. When they get that note, they bring it back to show everybody. I'm like, I know I wrote it. Look what I got in the mail. Mailing a thank you note, y'all, it is powerful. It goes a long, long way. Let your volunteers know why they are essential to our school. Told you mine come far behind, need lots of extra assistance. They're important. I need role models. Let me talk to you about a first grade class that I had at Global Learning Academy. The teacher came to me and said, I want a mentor in my room. And I want it to be a male mentor. And I want him to have his shirt tucked in. Okay. And I want him to be black. Okay. And I want him to be tall. I said, okay, that's just a we were able to get her a mentor in the room. And she spent a lot of time with those little first graders talking about, look how he looks. Do you see how that man looks? He looks like a man. You can tell he's a man. He's got a job. He wants that job. Look at how he looks. Every single first grade boy in her class has their shirt tucked in. This year, he's not there, but now she has the reputation. Every single student has their shirt tucked in, and now she's adding belts to it. There won't be more like pants on the ground, pants on the ground. See, I'll say balloons. Those role models are so important. So we need to let them know those kinds of things. There's a variety of needs, and I let them know how much it helps us lower our teacher-people ratio, which is important. So what's it all about? It's all about relationships. If you want to get volunteers, you have to have relationships with them. And I mean that in a very positive, nice way. You want to make sure you can call them by name. Make sure if you see them outside of the school that you stop what you're doing and you recognize them. You make sure if you ask somebody to go out there and weed your flower bed, that you're taking them water and you're going out and checking on them. It's all about relationships and making sure they have meaningful work that does make a difference. Money, it's just a recognition. You know, it's not a lot that it costs us. The impact of volunteers. What I try to do when I'm talking about the impact of volunteers, I try to, if I know that they've impacted a student, I tell that story to other mentors and volunteers. For example, I have a student, or had a student at Hallmark, that would not read out loud for all the money in the world, would not read out loud because he stuttered and he didn't read well. Well, I don't read well. I mean, I'm not going to do it either if I stutter and I don't read very well anyway. If he would read to his mentor, because the mentor wasn't judging. The mentor wasn't grading. It was just a friend that was listening to him read. Today, that child is in 5th grade, and he reads very, very well. As a matter of fact, he will take the microphone from the teacher, and he will read out loud. But had it not been for that mentor encouraging and being that non-threatening person in that room, that child still may not be reading today. So I tell those kinds of stories so that they understand the impact that they can have. I always talk about the data. When we were applying for the grant, we were able to show the data. Your homework struggled and struggled and struggled, and the year that we started keeping kids after school to get an extra help, bam! That's the year we were able to bring it up. We brought that school from an F to an A because we had volunteers, we had mentors, we had extra time. So if you can tell how they help you be successful, it helps with recruitment and keeping them. Training is very, very important. I allow my volunteers to train and speak at my volunteer training. I allow my mentors to speak and train at those meetings. And I train my teachers every single year on expectations and what I need them to do. We can't function without them. I know you can't function without them. There's a lot of people in Pensacola and a lot of people looking for something to do. We have to get out there and spread the message about what we need and get more people involved. And I'm one step ahead of you, so catch up with me if you can. Thank you. Yes.
I will hand you.
Thank you.
Here.
Thank you. And there is no stress. Hold it. I'll hold it. Keep my hands off you. How are you guys today? Good. I'm so glad. I don't know how to use this.
Okay, just
Sorry. Flip it over.
the
Flip it
button.
over.
Go a little right, but you flip it to the back side.
Huh.
The arrow
Oh, I did. Okay, good.
on right, page forward, page back.
Okay. I run a teen volunteer center, so they can do this for me. I so always feel like my mom going, I don't know what to do anymore. It's fine. First, I'm going to tell you what chain reaction is, and then I'm going to tell you, and I'm going to talk to you a little bit about using volunteers, because you would think I was going to tell you how to work with teen volunteers, and I'm not going to talk about that at all. Doesn't that make complete sense? No, not at all. I do these things a lot. Chain reaction, I founded the organization in 2003. I was young, crazy, and stupid. I was like, I'm starting a nonprofit. That's no big deal. Someone actually sent me a video the other day that you should always laugh. I think it was like when a lawyer or an investment banker says, you know, when I retire, I'm going to start a nonprofit. And it was like on something, I was like, that's funny. That really is funny. So I was young and stupid and said, oh, I'm going to change the world. So I bebopped down to South Florida and heard about this teen volunteer center and thought I would start one as well. In 2007, we won an Impact 100 grant. It took our organization from a pen and paper organization to really knowing what to do. We had 650 teens. We grew immediately to 1,000. We were placing 400 kids a month. We were killing it. But we went to look for our stories. And the stories that I would get funded for, the stories that I would tell, wasn't necessarily about volunteering. It was my leadership kids. It was the kids that came to my office once a week and served on our teen council. It was our kids that we had lots of conversations with about who they were and what their gifts and talents were and how they can unite together as a team. Those were my biggest success stories. So we paid attention to that. In 2008, we started a teen convention and we incorporated character education. There are 4 things that we teach. Discovering your gifts and talents, uniting together as a team, believing that everything is possible, and persevering, building your record of success. Because life is hard, and the way you build your record of success is by falling down and standing back up, and not something to celebrate. Mistakes are a good thing. So what we have really transitioned to in 2013, and I actually pulled the final trigger on this in June, is we are an education program that utilizes our technique by giving kids the opportunity to volunteer because they can't have jobs. How do you learn all this stuff? So it's really changed the way we did things. At one point, we worked with over 150 agencies. Now I work with 3. It was a very, very scary thing. We took 2.5 years to change that. And so we shut down all of our final volunteer programs in June,
And now all we do are work with these 3 agencies and we'll start building more back. But it is literally every time a child goes volunteer, it's about their education and using that volunteer opportunity to teach that. So it's very different. We're starting to rebrand ourselves. We're very excited about that. And it's really, really exciting to be able to track that data. There's a quote that comes into our office from John Adams. It says there's 2 types of education. One that teaches us how to make a living, which is the school system, and the other one that teaches us how to live. That's what Chain Reaction does. We are strategically trying to change the way teenagers are raised. I think it's ridiculous that we start saying, what do you want to be at 18? I went to Auburn University, and one of my teens was about to go, and he couldn't afford it because it's $42,000 a year. We can no longer afford to start asking those questions at 18 years old. It's just not possible. So we are really trying to reform the education system, and my next cuckoo idea is in 2018 I want to take Chain Reaction national. Crazy. I will admit that. But I'm really excited about that, and so that's what we do. And so what we're doing now is how do we utilize volunteers? We have used them a lot. We use our alumni, we use our parents, we use community leaders at our team convention and throughout the year. We also use, obviously, board members and funders to help us. So we actually utilize volunteers in that way. And what you will see from my presentation, because we are really just getting into this aspect, we've done it, but I don't think we necessarily did it the right way. You get to see about all my mistakes, yay, and the new things that we're doing. So I wanted to explain that to you so you would know. This is, I'm assuming this made Andrea cringe. Job description of the program. We don't have it. We don't know. Yay! There were 3 points on this. I think one of the things that we do really bad, I just got to hire a director of operations, and she's highly involved in PYP. And she's like, oh, we can do this with PYP, and this with PYP, and I have this young professional, and this. And you want to go, sure, bring them in. Sounds great. But I was like, okay, that sounds really good, and I've heard it 8 or 9 times, and I do keep getting young professionals asking. So now we need to stop. We need to strategically plan, and we have to do exactly what we don't have there. We need to look at job descriptions, and we have to look at what it costs. I think it's a bad business practice that we do it, so we're changing it. I'm not allowing any more volunteers in until we make this happen, because you have to be able to look at, with this job that I'm giving you to do, and I'll go into that, we'll see what's the next slide. I might talk over myself, but you have to go and look at what is the personal investment of time. There's an investment when we put that intellectual time into an employee. That's why retention rates are so important. With employees, that's why Clint Suter has made $1 bazillion, because that's what he teaches hospitals across the country, is when you hire someone, you don't want to lose them. Well, when you retain a volunteer, it's the same thing. How much time, how much intellectual capital does it take for me to train you to do this job? Because if it takes you 22 hours and it's filing papers, I probably could have done that myself. And you really have to be smart about what is your cost. You have to look at appreciation. You are not allowed, and I'll talk about this again, we should make the standard, because we are nonprofits and we get it, and we are all underappreciated. We should not take a volunteer in our door until we know the cost to appreciate them, because that's the only thing that they're going to get out of it. They are not getting a paycheck. We have to make sure, what is that cost? Because there should be a handwritten thing, I'll go into that a little bit, there should be a process of how you're doing it, and that is a cost. What does it cost to sit in the desk? What's it cost? Where are you going to put them? You really need to write every single volunteer opportunity with a job description, and that's what Chain Reaction is doing. We are literally working on this now. I am a small grassroots organization. You might be as well. You might be big like Big Brothers Big Sisters, but you're doing something new. I love to share. I'm very social, and I only have 18-year-olds in my office. Yay! So I love to talk to adults, because y'all think I'm smart, and they don't until after they graduate high school. So if you are working on these things, and you want to work on it with me, or share resources back and forth, we are in the process of developing it, and I love to develop with people. Please call me at any point. Andrea and Dee are amazing rock stars in what they do, so usually I just call her, give her stuff, and put my name on it. That's the best type. But if there's anything along here that you're like, hey, I want to do that too, send me an email. I would love to tell you what I've learned and make your path easier. The next thing is how do you, oh, this is the fun one. This is why I justify my shopping expense and me going out. Networking, build and sustain relationships, more networking. How do you get volunteers? One of my friends is a lawyer, and his brother-in-law is a jeweler. And they own their own law firm and jewelry store. And he said, you just have to be seen. You cannot sit in your office and recruit volunteers. You need to be at the big public events. You need to go to a Blue Wahoos game, because I see about 400 people that I know. I see more people at a Blue Wahoos game than anything else. The big events in town, you need to be there and you need to have your name tag on. And you need to say hi. Hi, oh, you saw me, good to see you. Oh, good. Nice to see you too. It's fun. But they have to see you. How are they going to remember? Maybe that's their nudge to go, you know what? I've heard great things about that school. Wait, I've been thinking about that Big Brothers Big Sisters thing. You need to do that. And if it's not you, your board members and your other staff, but make sure they have their name tag. Make sure for some where I wear my chain reaction t-shirts all over the place. I was at the dermatologist's office, and all of a sudden the woman that was checking out my face, her daughter was in one of our programs and was giving me her Social Security thing. I'm like, I don't want to work right now. Oh, dear God. Okay. I mean, I've had some of the strangest conversations, but if I'm out in town with my 3 kids, I have on a chain reaction t-shirt. I'm a walking billboard. Network. Build and sustain relationships and network again. Invest in those. I would say that we have a B+ on doing this. With my new staff person, I really want us to get to an A+. But we have an appreciation campaign that we've done with funders, and we're expanding into our volunteers. Now, we've done this, we don't have the tracking. We have not put it in the Excel spreadsheet so I can say every single person that has walked in my door, this is what they've gotten at every single funder. So the things that I tell you we've been doing for a long time, but I want the tracking. I remember talking to Paul Michelle, and she had an incident where someone had actually said, hey, wait, I don't think I got recognized. She could pull up the date, who delivered the volunteer product, and exactly what it was. I was like, oh gosh, I don't know that. But, okay, check, need to add that in. But that's what we want, and that's why I give us a B+ versus an A+, and that's what we're working on now. But once a quarter, we communicate an alumni story. Man, we heard this a lot from Sherry. It's not what your kids or your teens or your food services have done today, it's the impact they had 5 years later. That's what they want to see, that it works. Because a lot of times in the midst of it, we don't know if it's working. But that's why we do a chain reaction alumni story. 5 years, 7 years, 8 years, they're still saying we made a difference. We're going to share that with you. The second is a thank you note from a teen. In our CRT convention, a teen is asked to write a thank you note to the speaker. They actually write it down, and then we do what Sherry does, we mail it to them. I can't tell you how many people have called me to thank you for my teen thank you note. I've never gotten that before, and it happens every single time. I just want to call and tell you thank you for your thank you note. Oh, okay, we can keep doing that. That's working. The next thing that we do is we give a gift, and this is a kind of a tricky way we do it. We have chain reaction like mugs and t-shirts, but what we've done this year is we put a little tag that explains our program. So they did this cute little tag, and we put candy in it, because Ronald McDonald House has done that for us before, but then we say, thank you so much, and this is our ketchup t-shirt, and then we just explain what Sir Ketchup means. So they're getting more education about our program, but they're also getting a great thank you gift. So we've gotten a little slide with that. The next thing we do, is we are actually doing a report on the impact of what's happened, so that they can understand. They can't appreciate what you do if you don't tell them. And there are people that business-wise want to know. And we do the same thing for volunteers as we do for funders. This is where your dollars went. This is where your time went, because they're donating money or they're donating time or treasure. Both are just as valuable. For me, I will write you a check before I give you time. I have a full-time job and 3 boys. There is no time. It's a lot easier for me to write a check. So don't undervalue your person's time. You should treat your volunteers the same way you treat a funder. And the rule at Chain Reaction is, I don't care if you gave me $1 or you gave me $10,000, you are all treated exactly the same. Because that person, for my own personal belief, that gave $10,000 might have given less than the person that gave $1. And we don't know that, so we're just going to treat everybody the same. The next slide. Oh, I like this slide. Okay. Why are volunteers essential to your organization? I don't believe that you can run a nonprofit effectively or efficiently without them. I just don't think we can. I was watching an Oprah, because I DVR'd them, and it's like 23 years ago, and there was it was the director who filmed Liar Liar, and the other one with Jim Carrey where he acted like God. God Almighty. So he had done that. Bruce Almighty. So he had done that and like a couple other ones, and he was on Oprah and he said, I'm not telling you to have this, I'm just trying to start the conversation, but he had moved in to his 28-bedroom house, and he goes, I didn't feel any different. I didn't feel, I was the same. It didn't make me worse, but it didn't make me better. So he gave away a lot of his money, and he said he moved into a mobile home. Now they show the mobile home. It's on the beach in California, and it was still nicer than my house, but it wasn't 28 rooms. I mean, it was 2 bedrooms, and it was a very modest closet. All of us would move in a heartbeat. But he had given away a lot of money. He said he had all these people manage him, and he said this quote, find out how much God has given you, and from it take what you need. The remainder is needed by others. Connie Bookman, if you do not know her, hands down, is one of my favorite people in the entire world. She does Pathways for Change. She partnered with Chain Reaction, has invested a large amount of money into our program because she says that we do it better than anyone else. And we are opening a second site at Pathways, and we've been working together on that for a year. Connie is very good at recognizing what she's been given and then giving it to others. I know, and this is what goes back to the job descriptions, we had a United Way day carrying someone painted, or Gulf Power painted our absolutely entire building. It was fantastic. And we applied for an Impact 100 grant. And I would love just to pay someone to come in and paint. So I don't have to think of it, which we haven't done, but obviously we all know that. But I would love to just be like, here's the check. Leave me alone. That would be great. But it just makes me think, from Connie's example in that quote, it could be used for someone else. And everybody always asks us, where is our money going? And if you go to slide 1 and you look at the cost of what it costs, and you're like, you know what? It is cheaper for us. We can afford to have volunteers do this. Then you can take that money and make a new partnership with someone you never thought you could have, which is going to make your program better, going to make someone else's better, a win-win that we can do more together as a community, which makes us all look better. It has been, Connie and I have completely developed. She promotes me, I promote her. We are just in full, I'm like, I am married to you. You cannot divorce me. We are in this together, lady. But it has been such a great, fantastic experience, and I just don't think it's any better than to collaborate with another nonprofit, because they get it. They know that your board's going to drive you nuts. They know that your funders aren't going to reach it. They're going to pull your hair out. And it's, we just don't have a lot of top staff at my office. We don't have the money to pay for it. We need to collaborate with other EDs. Just makes my life better, makes my job better. So I really think that we have to do a better job at number 2. I know at Chain Reaction we're going to try to do a better job at number 2. And again, it starts with those job descriptions and seeing how you can farm things out. The next is how to foster camaraderie between volunteers and employees. It has always been just me and Mayor for Business. So basically we've always had employees. So it's been very easy for us to develop this. My Director of Operations is the first long-term staff we will have. Thank you. It's hard to have 100% staff turnover every year. But we treat all our volunteers and employees the same. The employee receives a paycheck and the volunteer's payment is appreciation. So what I wrote is, I think we get an A- in this. Employees need to be trained on the way to treat volunteers and appreciate and the feeling of impact of their investment of time. The volunteers need to understand that they are doing an employee job and their behavior and commitment directly impacts the results of the project. So it happens on both ends. And I use the example of Cordova Park Classroom because I have a 4th grader and a 2nd grader. And I always go to the teacher at the beginning of the year and says, what can I do to help you teach my children better? I'm working for you. Give me an assignment. Now I know that something's going to come up. A board member's going to need me. Something's going to happen with the team. A great opportunity is going to happen. But I made a commitment to that teacher. And so if they place me in that position, it is no different than not showing up for work. And it just drives me out to people, well, I'm a volunteer. No. I have made that spot for you. I'm relying on you. And if you don't show up, my child cannot learn effectively. We have to be the examples of that as nonprofit executive directors and nonprofit program directors and volunteers so other people know that. And so what I always do to make sure that I'm the best version of an ED is I put myself in that situation. So if you're going to work with volunteers, volunteer. Because you'll either go, wow, that was the greatest experience, or that was the worst experience. And if it's the worst, though, I will never treat a volunteer that way. I think it is the best way to learn is put yourself in the other situation. You will get great ideas, and you will also learn, heck, I'm never doing that. And so that's what I really try to do for myself. And then I try to say it a lot nicer when I recruit volunteers. And I look at here, I'm no. And then it's important for your employees to know. They're not getting a paycheck. And we might complain that we don't have a big paycheck, but it's still a paycheck. So the only thing they're getting is appreciation. So we better pay them and pay them well with appreciation. And I will end with this lovely little picture right here that was on my, I took it yesterday. Sassy. You have to be sassy with teenagers. Gosh. I just walk in and act like I know what I'm doing, even when I don't. That shelf behind you, I put it up and wanted to talk about what Sheree said is about those letters. And I know Andrea has said this at the Ronald house when she was there. These are literally letters that teenagers have given me over the years. And I put that shelf together and I laminated those letters and my computer looks at it. And so when board members are giving me that, but I have a fabulous board and I love them on a rare occasion. Or I have Eric calls or something happens or a teenager tells me I'm an idiot and I don't know what I'm doing. I just look at that wall because I know I've made a difference. And I have ones from 2008, and I've kept them this whole time. And I finally laminated them and put them in my office because that's the reason why I do it. I really don't think, it sounds so simple, a heartfelt thank you from one of your clients or from you yourself means more than anything else. I don't need a team to buy me anything. I don't need them to do anything. Just write me a letter and say, change the world. It makes it all worth it. And I think we all believe that. I think if we do that for our volunteers, it'll be great. I would be more than happy to answer any questions on teen volunteers. I love teenagers. I think they are the most amazing people. It is completely different working with them than adults. My best recommendation is get someone like Pay Center for Girls or a Rotaract Club in a school and work with that adult. They are phenomenal and they will consistently exceed your expectations, but it is completely different because you're in teen world, not adult world, and they are just as busy as adults and they want to be treated like adults. So if anyone has any questions about teen volunteerism, I'm more than happy to answer it at this panel or after because I do, they're the best. Awesome. But it's our operation is probably $300,000 and it's huge. So I didn't want to go into that today and then be like, oh, by the way, you have no resources to build that. Good luck. But I'll be more than happy to answer that as well. That's it. Ta-da!
Okay, now I get to see you.
And nothing like speaking right before lunch when everybody's starving.
Yeah. Dance.
I'll make it fast.
Ooh, there you go. Can we put it on your back?
No, hold it.
Oh, see, yes. Okay.
Again, I'm Chrissy with Big Brothers Big Sisters. I've been doing this for about 15 years now, and I was telling Melissa that when I started as a case manager 15 years ago and did it for about a year, and then she asked me to do this job, and when she did, the one stipulation I had was anything, but I don't want to speak in front of people. And here I am. So when I'm the CEO, when I get back, when I kill her, so there might be that job position open. I don't want it. So, and I said to Melissa, am I just going to be sitting? And she said yes. And thanks for that.
So sorry.
Not my thing. So anyways, volunteers are waiting for us.
Yeah.
Our whole organization is volunteers. We match volunteers. We call them bigs, so you may hear me say that. And then our kids are called littles. We match them. We equate it to something like Match.com or something like that. Find out the interests of the volunteers, find out what the kids need, and then we match them accordingly. So our volunteers are not in our office. We do have a few that come in and work, but not often. So all of our volunteers are out in the public doing volunteering with their little, and we're not seeing them, what they do, or anything like that. So we are a little different. Some of our best practices, we make a way to connect with the volunteers at every agency event, every fundraiser, anything that we do. We always have a volunteer speaking for us. We always have a parent speaking for us, a child speaking for us. I love to have the kids on the waiting list come and speak, or the parents from the kids on the waiting list. To me, those are the best because they're pulling at the heartstrings, and so I love to utilize them, but we never miss an opportunity to have somebody who's matched speak in front of our funders, in front of anybody that we want to be a volunteer. We also utilize social media a lot, and we have just started this in the last probably year. Facebook is amazing. Everybody's on it. We have tons of friends on it, but what we do is we post at least once a week a wonderful story. A child says to a case manager, I love my big sister, she taught me how to do this, or I learned how to do this for the first time, or I ate Chinese food for the first time, or whatever it is. It can be so little. A few weeks ago it was, I finally went out to eat for the first time. We went to Arby's. I've never been out to eat before. So those types of things we put on Facebook and get tons of volunteers just from reading about our stories on Facebook. So again, never miss those opportunities for stories. And then again, as the two ladies have said, recognizing volunteers frequently. I personally don't think that we do as good of a job as we should on this. I think that we can always do better, but that is something that we need to work on, but it's important. Our job description, one of the things I didn't put up here that should have been first in our organization, you have to like children. I don't want you if you don't like children. And one of the questions is, in our interview, why did you choose us over Council on Aging or a different organization? Why did you choose us? And because I want to know, I want to make sure that they're doing it for the right reason. You know, we get a lot of kids who just need community service hours. Those are not the right reasons to volunteer with a child in our organization. So we do want to know that. So you do have to like children. You have to be available at least one time a week. School-based is one time a week for 1 hour. Community-based is a lot more, but not a lot. It can be. Lee is a big sister, a wonderful big sister, and she spends more time, but some do just 2 or 3 hours a week. It just depends. Some can do a whole weekend or a whole Saturday. You have to be able to pass the background screening. You need to commit to 1 year. So those are some of the things. You have to be at least 17, have your own vehicle or means of transportation because you're going to be driving your child around. Required state automobile insurance, driver's license, those types of things. There's no cost to the volunteer. We take on all the costs for our volunteers. Our background screening, we have to, if we're in the school, we have to do that $80. If we're not in the school, we still have the same screening. It's cheaper. It's about $36. Of course, all the other costs that go with our office and staff and those types of things I'll tell you about in just a sec. Volunteer recruitment and retention tactics. We do so many speaking engagements because we need so many volunteers. Right now we have about 450 kids that are matched, and we're working towards our goal again to 800, I think it is, by 2016. And so we're moving back that direction. We need volunteers, so we speak anywhere that we can. I was laughing with what Kristen said. I'm not a t-shirt wearer. I have them because we have to wear them for work sometimes, but I don't wear them. But my husband loves t-shirts. He wears them. And so last Friday he was going to the doctor. He was off work, and he came into the bedroom and he had on a polo shirt. But then he turned back around, went in the bedroom, the other bedroom, came back, and he had on a purple Big Brothers Big Sisters shirt. I said, why did you change clothes? He said, I'm going to the doctor's office. There's people there. I can tell them about Big Brothers Big Sisters, and I might get the doctor to sponsor you guys. And so I was laughing. I'm like, he is my walking billboard when I don't wear the t-shirts. He wears them everywhere. He has 50 or 60 of them. So, and my daughter too, she wears them to school. She wears them all the time. We share specific needs. Sometimes we just need volunteers for boys. Sometimes we just need volunteers for girls. We have certain grants where we do mentors of children of prisoners. And so we just tell them that specific need. A lot of times if you make it more specific, just like she said, they will come to try to help a need instead of the big picture. We just need volunteers. So we do that. We ask current volunteers to go with us to share their stories. We always take a volunteer with us or whatever. I talked about the parents, social media. We use press releases. We just started something called Lunch and Learns, and so that's where we're going to a big organization in the next few weeks. We're taking pizza and drinks, and it'll be during their lunch break, and then we're going to speak to them during their lunch break and provide them pizza. It's not a lot of money, and Subway sandwiches, can take snacks, whatever, but we're doing lunch and lunch, just to let them know who we are and about us. We do targeted outreach. We do monthly group activities as well, and we just have started that back up. Of course, that costs dollars, and so that is one of our retention tactics that we use. If we can do monthly activities to bring the volunteers and the littles together at the same time, it helps build that relationship with us. It helps them talk to each other and get to know each other. They love to talk to each other and tell them, do you have the same problem I do? My little's doing this, and I don't know how to handle this, and so how do you handle it? And so they love that. So we just started that back up again. And then for us, the biggest thing, which is different from most, is we have case management support. We don't just make a match and then let them go. Our case managers call the big and the little and the parent once a month to see how the match is going, what are you doing together, checking for safety. Is there anything else that big brothers and sisters can do to help your relationship, to help your match? If there's a problem, we have a meeting with everybody and try to work those issues out. Anything we can do to retain that volunteer. We're measured on, we have huge metrics on volunteer retention with our national office, so that is a big deal for us, and we have to do that well. Why they're essential to our organization? Because we wouldn't even have an organization without volunteers. That is what we do. And so we wouldn't, none of us would have a paycheck, but there would also not be a lot of children in our community being affected and helped. So what we do with fostering relationships between volunteers and employees, again, through case management support, a big deal. Volunteer recognitions, we try our best, like I said. In fact, I will recognize Lee, and probably embarrass her to death, but Lee Hansen just was awarded the Escambia County Big Sister of the Year Award last week. So, she's been around forever and ever. She was on our board. She's been a big sister for many, many years, and just an amazing woman. And we talk about you all the time around the office, but we try to recognize volunteers by doing monthly recognitions on our newsletters, on, like I said, through Facebook, lots of different ways. Now we just started a monthly email, I don't know what they called it, I forgot, a big virtual talk or something like that. And so we're going to recognize at least one every month. So that, because she was recognized for the whole year, out of all 700 matches last year, she was recognized, but you know, there's another 400 that were probably amazing that didn't get recognized. We're going to try to do it on a more frequent basis. Some of the costs, oh, did I go back? Sorry. We have something called a Friends Committee. We just started this maybe a year ago, maybe a year and a half ago. There are people who don't have time to volunteer as a big. There are people who may not want to sit on the board. They don't want to volunteer on that capacity, in that capacity, but what we did is we started a Friends Committee. Those are people who call in and say, well, I really want to help, but I don't have a year to commit. And so we put them in this committee, and then what we did is when we need something, we blast it out to them, and then they can decide what they want to help with and what they don't want to help with. So about once every other month, we have a kind of a get-together in the office. We provide food and some snacks or whatever, and then they come to the office, they get on all of our phones, and they start calling the volunteers and thanking them for being a volunteer. And they just go down the row and start calling. So that is something that they love to do. They also do thank you letters for us. They do a lot of different thank yous to help us do it because there are so many volunteers. And then Big Talk is something that we just started, and it's going to be quarterly. We've done it in the past, and again, that's where the bigs get together, and they just come in for either lunch, or we'll do 5:30 on, it'll be one time a month, and they can come together. We will have a topic that we will discuss with them on maybe volunteer issues that have been encountered that we've heard through support or whatever, but they will have a chance to bring their issues and hear from other bigs as well, so that they can get a different perspective instead of just us. The cost of volunteers, minister liability, background screens, recognitions, food for Big Talks, and then priceless, because we couldn't do it without them. They are what we do. The impact for us is, this was a hard one for me to answer. For a lot of our kids, the impact of what the volunteer does, you won't see until they're an adult. I was telling Kristen about a story with Paula, our CEO. She was matched with a girl named Shakira, and they were matched for, I don't know, a long time. And she got into some trouble, and she didn't always do the right thing. And but Paula stayed with her and was matched with her until she turned 18, and they're still in each other's lives. Sorry, I get choked up about stories, but anyways, she came into the office about maybe a year ago, and she just wanted to stop by and talk to Paula for a minute. And she told her, she said, she's married now, she has 2 kids, she's married to a really good guy who's in the military, and she's doing well. And she told Paula, she said, Paula thought she had just totally screwed up this girl's life. I mean, she thought, where did I go wrong? Because she has not made the best decisions. And so she told Paula, she said, I just wanted to tell you, she's 23 now, I just wanted to tell you that all the right decisions I made in my life, I made because you taught me those things. The wrong decisions I learned from my mom. And she said, those were the things I followed after with my mom. But she said, the right things, the right choices, I did because you taught them to me. So Paula came around to the office crying. So like, I can't believe I did good for this girl. And so those are the things that we hear later. We have so many kids that come back and tell us stories about what their bigs do. So the impact might not be at the moment. So we have to be really diligent in our job to make sure that the volunteers know how important they are, even if they're not seeing a difference right now, because they may not see it until they're older and until they're wiser. And like she said, they think we're dumb at this point, we don't know anything. But when they're older, they realize how important their volunteers are. We have a lot of, we're a very evidence-based program. We have national metrics we have to meet. We have tons of goals. We baseline every kid when they start on their grades, and they fill out a whole thing about their confidence level and how they see their parents and if they're going to graduate. I had 2 little boys yesterday that we were talking to. I was training, and one little boy is going to finish college. The other one has no desire to go to college. And so hopefully matched with a big will change his mind, and we'll at least find a direction. And so we look at those things on the front end and at the end as well. Grades are shared every 9 weeks with our volunteers so that they know what to work on, but also how's your little doing? Am I making a difference? And we see differences every year. 85 to 90% of the kids in our school-based program increase in at least one of the FCAT subjects. So we see growth, and we have to measure that. So all of that is important. And then we encourage our volunteers to do community service with their little. That's one of their goals, so that they can teach their little to give back. And so it just makes a full circle, and they learn how to give back just like the volunteer has. And then we also have a lot of, I'll lead with this, but we have a lot of volunteer kids that become adults and come back to be bigs. I have several right now who are big brothers, and I have a big sister who, honestly, I matched a little sister when I was the case manager all those years ago, and thought, oh my gosh, when I walked out, I remember thinking, I just made a mistake. They're both quiet, they're never going to speak to each other. What was I thinking? And to this day, she was in the girl's wedding, she was there when the baby was born, her big sister, and now she's come back to be a big sister. She's in college. And so, it does make a difference, but volunteers are so essential to what we do. It's all we do. So I think that's it.
Yes.